want to talk about censorship because I think a lot of people, or at least a segment of people, hear that word censorship and they immediately think that it's bad because of the way it's been used, because things that are right or just have been censored. And so they think, I don't want any more censorship. I don't want this true information to be censored by these powerful autocrats. I understand where that comes from because I don't either. But censorship itself is a neutral power. It's a process that has been around since the dawn of time. As far as I know, certain pieces of information you don't want in the public, like child pornography. So we've had to censor, come in and say, we can't let that go on the front page. We can't let that go on in kids' faces. We need to censor that. And basically I made my point. But it's important that people understand this in this day and age. I think, not for any specific reason, I'm not going after a piece of information or a type of person or anything like that, but I'm gonna minimize this distracting background I got. I'm gonna censor my environment. Censor used to be, well, it still is technically a noun. It's a person that takes on the role of the censor, and they go around and they make sure certain things are cogent. So in the age of free speech, people are like, let it be said. And I agree with that. I think constitutional free speech and the First Amendment is paramount. We are allowed to discuss and criticize our government and have open discourse, but there was always things like disparagement, certain things that if you do, you'll be punished for, profanity, like I said earlier, pornography, especially child pornography and horror porn and things like that. You just don't put in the public. And in fact, you'll arrest people that try to do it. You'll put them in prison if they continuously do it. Look, I got Free Ross in the background. That's Ross Ulbricht. See that sign? He got put in jail for running the Silk Road. And there's a movement now to free Ross. Ross has served time. Ross served like 10 years in prison or something, at least. And I think it's time for Ross to be free personally. So that's not really censorship so much. That was more trying to stop an activity. But then you could say like uploading child porn is different than saying something pornographic. Like if I come on and tell like a lascivious story, if I come on and tell a sexy story and talk about kids getting, I don't even want to say the words, kids getting violated sexually. That's like, it becomes a fine line. Like, I don't want to say the word rape because I feel like there's a censor, there's like an automated censor. Sometimes we're building into these AI algorithms like child rape, you don't want to say. But the thing is, that's free speech and you're allowed to talk about it. But showing it or doing it is illegal and should be censored, in my opinion. And most of society's opinion. So I posted on X, if you just think, if you've like closed off your mind and you think censorship is evil, you're inadvertently supporting child porn being put on the front page. If you think no censorship should ever happen, then that would allow for child pornography to show up on the front page of Twitter, on the front page of YouTube. And that shouldn't happen. So we need to censor that stuff. I worked as a censor at Mines for a long time. And I had to learn this kind of the hard way. Like, sometimes there's things that I personally don't want to see and I think is grotesque, but it's legal, so I allow it. As a just censor, you can't you can't use your personal feelings to decide what gets to go and what doesn't. It's like what's been decided is legal and allowed, and that's what'll go up. It's not an easy job to be a censor, and I don't like that it's been outsourced to private companies, because it's very easy for like someone to buy a company that has like a social media platform and then decide, you know, I don't like the way that they say the word Jesus, so I'm not going to let that word be up. And now we're talking about downranking content and upranking content on social media networks, which is like another kind of form of soft censorship, which is wild. And sometimes that's being done because companies want to propagate engagement. Like, I used to think at Minds, like, if political content kept getting boosted to the front page when all these apolitical people go just to enjoy their social network, and they get bombarded with, I think my candidate is the best candidate and your candidate sucks and fuck you and all this shit, like this vitriol. But like, I was like, I don't want that on the front page. I feel like that is a form of censorship, because when it goes on the front page, people stop going, or it becomes a very divisive, angry environment that I thought wasn't conducive to social. So it was antisocial, and I didn't want to build an antisocial network. So I was like, what do I do here? What do I do? And I would just have to make a decision. Like, I would still allow this stuff. I'm not blocking it, but like, if we had, like, you know, you'll see stuff get featured, and it's like, it's featured by who's featuring it? Who decides what gets featured? It used to be a lot of things I think would be automated, like how many things got the most upvotes, but you'd see mobs go in and like upvote this horrendous stuff. And so these censors would come in and be like, all right, just because a mob wants this vicious content to be on the front page because they're full of hate and they want their hateful message to be seen, or their grotesque sexual perversion to be seen, we can't allow that, or I won't allow that on my network. And that's kind of the United States, is these dudes came in and they wrote a constitution. This was their constitution. This is their country. This is my country. I'm involved in this now. So we do have a duty to kind of self-censor our government, ourselves. But we've realized, and the founding fathers of the United States realized, the danger of allowing a government and a small group of people to control the message. And so with social networks, it's kind of like that. Like, we don't want to let the king, we don't want to let the corporate owner decide who gets to see what, necessarily. So we have this enshrined First Amendment, but like, at the same time, if a small group of people aren't gonna guide or act as gatekeepers of information on their networks, who will? And in that case, if no one is, then you're gonna see some serious depravity blasted into 19-year-olds or 14-year-olds or 9-year-olds, like transfixing their minds, and that is horrible for our culture and our species. You need to protect young minds from you know, what words can I use? Slander, from just porn. I keep thinking of the worst of it as like sexual perversion, and you don't want to twist young kids into sexual perverse creatures. I think that's just a lesson that needs to be relearned over time. I don't know, because I'm only 45 and I've only been around since 1979, but I can imagine that cyclically over time, society's had to learn and relearn and relearn and relearn that you do not do this to young children. You do not allow sexual depravity to be seen to young children. And then it becomes full circle, and then it becomes seriously puritanical, where like, we can't even allow the word fuck to be seen or heard by young children. They call it the F word, because they don't even want to hear the word out loud. It's like, all right, that's a little too far in my opinion. Maybe not. Maybe not. My parents didn't say fuck around me. I think one time before I was 18, my mother, I heard her say the word fuck out of frustration when I was like 16 or something, and it was shocking, because it was a serious off-limits word in my environment growing up. And that was a form of censorship in the house. Like, they were like, if you cuss, you're grounded. That means you cannot sleep over at your friend's house on the weekend, which to me was like everything. I was a social creature. I wanted out. I wanted to go hang out with my friends and drink Pepsi and play video games all night. And it was just, oh, it was awful if I had to sit at the house and I couldn't go anywhere. So, and then if I tried, I never did, but if I knew that if I tried to sneak out, I would be grounded for months, and my Nintendo would have been taken out of the room. All I would have is books. I would take in my toys. They probably would stop buying me stuff, because they were pretty good about, I did my part, they did their part to help me have a better life. I think they did a pretty good job in their form of censorship. The censorship debate, it is a debate. The censorship debate, it should always be a debate, because it's not like one guy gets to decide for all time what is and isn't righteous. We kind of got to do it as a group, as a society. And if we stop, if you step back and you just don't want to think about it and just allow whatever, seriously depraved groups will come in and take over and decide this is okay now. Or the other way around, hard authoritarians will come in and say none of this is okay now. We can't allow people to even know this exists. And like I'm thinking of kids with pornography, and it's like, I guess this is a debate I'd like to hear your opinion on. It's okay for kids to know that porn exists, but they should be taught not to look at it. And then hopefully they won't. Like, I kind of trusted my parents. My parents wouldn't let me watch R-rated movies as a kid. Off limits. Until I was 18. And so I remember sleeping over at one of my friend's houses. He had like a birthday party, and we all went over there and they watched Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. And I was like, uh-oh, this is R-rated. I can't watch this. And I was in the room. I remember seeing on the screen the guy, this was like on the roof, and the veins got sucked out of his feet, out of his body. And I was like, oh, it really messed up my mind seeing that. I was like 10. And I went in the other room and I called my mom and I told her that they're watching an R-rated movie, and she came and picked me up and I left. I was like a weird nerdy kid. I like did what I was told, kind of to excess almost. Kind of fell in line. So I do need to check that bias and get a little radical and revolutionary from time to time. I need to let myself break certain rules that aren't good, because I don't want to become a Nazi. I don't want to become some political party sycophant that just follows the rules just because I'm told to. Like, sometimes you got to bend and break shit to make it work, unfortunately. And I'm talking about the greater system. Sometimes pieces and parts are just so hard and rigid that they need to be shattered for the entire system to function properly. This started off as a conversation about censorship, but it kind of morphed into this amorphous system. I guess it demorphized. Well, welcome to the way my brain works. All right, that's a few thoughts on censorship, and I would love to hear yours. Legit. It's great because I feel like what we're doing is we're taking control of the conversation, which is if you're concerned about cultural endeavors and you want to enhance culture, that's what you do, is you take control of conversation, social conversation. You have it, you listen, you make yours heard, things like that. It's like the process is the goal. The process is the outcome in that instance. Hey, have a great day. See you later. My voice is like fried because I was singing so hard. Check out my music. It's on Instagram and on X. I've been posting videos. You have to go to X and then go to my page, Ian Crossland, go to media. I think it's media, and then you can see all these videos of songs. Dude, I was singing Burden in My Hand by Soundgarden. I'm gonna do it again. Follow me into the desert. I think that's the exact key. Follow. All right, Crossland, tone it down. I'll see you later.